What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Essential Scares podcast, the only show that dares to ask the question, is it essential? I am your host, Corbin, and with me today, as always, is Alan.
Hey, everybody.
And Bobby.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
That's fair.
It's tough being Bobby.
It's tough being Bobby this week.
We have got a fantastic show for you today. We are starting off our Texas Chainsaw remake duology with 2003's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But before we get into it, Bobby has a spoiler warning.
I do. This will serve as your first, one and only spoiler warning for 2003's, not 1973's, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you do want this pile of garbage spoiled for you, please skip to the time code provided in our show notes or description for our essential spoiler-free discussion. Ahem. Provided without context. This spoiler warning isn't yours. You stole her! Alan. It's still spiked. It's still spiked.
Of course it's still spiked. It's you. Of course it's still spiked.
Discord cut you off.
God, I have to edit. I'm going to have to edit that sound, too. Oh, my God.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
This is a movie that tries to emulate the laurels of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it manages to fail basically every attempt it makes. There's a group of kids. They're traveling through wacky Texas. They pick up a hitchhiker. She does something crazy, and they end up at the bad people's house, and bad things happen. I found this movie incredibly boring. I'm done. That's my whole synopsis, and I'm just moving on to the discussion of the show at this point. I hated this movie. I hated this movie a lot because I feel like it spits... It hocks a loogie in the face of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the worst way. It does not have the balls to be more gory, to be more crazy with what it does. It doesn't have the nuance to make you go, you figure out what's happening in here in this scene, viewer. It does nothing. It chooses middle of the road, which is the worst thing it could do, and I hate it.
So let me actually piggyback off that comment, because we're living in a world right now, and in this era, we're having a lot of discourse about human-made art versus AI-made art, and I feel like that's a really good explanation between the Texas Chainsaw 1973 versus Texas Chainsaw 2003, right? Because Texas Chainsaw 1973 is a movie that makes you feel a lot of things. Like, there's a deeper feeling that you... Like, Texas Chainsaw 1973 is a truly art... 74.
I had to correct you because I wanted to make sure we had it right. It is 74.
Okay, yeah. Corbin lied to me before the show. It's all good.
That.
Everything's fine here. Yeah, I trusted a friend and it's failed me. Texas Chainsaw.
I lied to Bobby before every show, and it's only been 76 episodes before we found out.
But back to my larger point that I'm coming up to right now is like real art makes you feel things. Like if you've ever gone to like an art museum, you'll find a piece of art that really speaks to you, right? Not all art speaks to you, but real art speaks to you. And I think that's like the big piece that people miss with like AI art, because you're like, oh, that's really cool. I like that. That's super cool. But you never really feel anything from it because you're just like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like that. You're never like, oh my God, that's like speaks to me in a big way. And that's the difference between the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and 2003's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. One goes, there's some bits you go, oh, that's kind of cool. And there are bits in this movie where I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like how they did that practical effect. And feeling the very visceral and real terror that the slow burn of the original Texas Chainsaw gave to you. That's the back cover art. But can we talk about the cool, wacky scene where the woman blows her goddamn brains out and then they go like through her head? Really cool shot.
That is
amazing.
Great shot.
I mean, that's like the best part of the whole movie.
The only good scene of the movie. Yes, I agree with you.
Not that scene. You don't agree with me because there are other parts of it that are pretty solid. It is all cinematography based. Like the movie is, I think, despite itself, even at times, shot really well. And that's probably like the number one thing, or maybe number two thing, because the other huge thing that I think this movie has going for it is Leatherface. Leatherface is great in this movie. Just an amazing design. He looks great. He's big. Loved him. Huge on.
No, I disagree. I disagree because they make Leatherface.
I know. I told you. You don't agree with me.
They make Leatherface mask weirdly and unnecessarily menacing. When having a leather face is menacing enough. No, they give him angry eye. They give him angry eyes. He doesn't need angry eyes. He's got a fucking human face on his face. Well, he doesn't need angry eyes.
He was so much scarier when he had the friend's face on. Like, he looks so much worse.
One of the best shots of the whole movie was that when he turns around and he's got Kemper's face on. Oof. Yeah. Great.
Okay, so I will say this, right? A movie that was billed on show not tell, and a movie that does show more than it needs to. This it is the opposite of the original Texas Chainsaw, where it shows you nothing and you still feel it. It shows you some of it, and that makes the parts that they don't show worse.
Yes.
Like it doesn't show nearly enough. That was actually, I think, my personal biggest complaint.
Because it was like, this is like a show not tell version.
I found very strange because I read a bunch of like Reddit comments and stuff afterwards about this, and it seems like the cultural memory of this movie is very similar to the cultural memory of the original in that people view this as a gory film, and this movie shows almost nothing, just a little bit more than the original, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's certainly not a movie that I would put in the bucket of gory films, especially considering the era of what was out at that time and coming out. Like, I don't know. I just found that very interesting that similarity.
I would agree with you 100%. But the problem is, I feel like this movie wanted to be gorier, like in the same because they show approximately. Like 2 characters get gored up, and one of them's Leatherface.
Yeah.
Like they show the guy who dies immediately, and they like in the first movie that they never show again, right? Mm-hmm. And he gets like all sorts of fucked up in this.
Kemper.
And then they no, not Kemper, because Kemper
the guy who's like hanging on the
the guy
I forget what his name is. Mark or something like that.
Yeah, the guy that Jessica Biel decides to mercy kill in the worst fucking way
by stabbing
possible.
him in the stomach.
Stabbing
the
him right in the
antithesis
gut,
of mercy. Yeah. That's a note that I have written down because I was like, what are we doing here?
He died immediately, so it was fine.
He didn't, because they show him go like and like he like has seconds and then drops his arms. And like they have him in like the Christ-like pose. It's so stupid.
Which I only thought was funny after that he died, because then his arms dropped down and it's like, oh, dude's just like holding himself like that on purpose.
Yeah, like he was trying to protect himself. Like, yeah, god damn it. Dude.
One of the big problems I had on the gore side of this film, and it's definitely the fault of this film because it could have shown more, but it also is accentuated by the movie Terrifier. Have either of you seen the first Terrifier?
You know we haven't.
Okay, well,
and neither do I want to be
okay, first off, Terrifier is great. It is a pure gore fest. It's
so
awesome.
Okay, so here's the thing
That's
about
why he doesn't want to watch.
Yeah,
great.
I don't like movies that are gory for gory's sake, and I don't like movies that are mean spirited. And those are the two critiques that Terrifier has gotten.
I would say it's gory for the sake of gore, but I wouldn't say it's mean spirited. It's gory.
I feel like, from what I've read about Terrifier, it's absolutely mean-spirited.
Oh, it's just gory.
I think most movies that are gory to be gory are mean-spirited. And I'm personally usually fine with that, but I think those things go hand in hand.
This is all an aside. The reason I bring it up is in that film, there is a quintessential shot that involves someone being chopped in half. And this film had the opportunity to really do that, but with a chainsaw. When Leatherface has the nerdy dude hung up by hooking his back through a chandelier, but instead
of the guy who did nothing wrong,
you're right, sure, but like they had a great opportunity to like have the money shot of the film. He's hung up. Leatherface is gonna chainsaw him from stem to stern, or from stern to stem, I guess in this case, and they just show nothing. And it's like insulting when that was on screen to me, because I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, this is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You're gonna make this out to be like this gory nonsense crazy fest, and then we get nothing. You get absolutely
I think that
held back nonsense.
a lot of
It's
that
awful.
A lot of that is because like this movie, and I'm not saying that they were successful, right? But it is clear that the filmmakers were trying to do something similar-ish to the original, right? They were trying to kind of like take elements of the original and adapt them in their own way to this one,
I get
right?
what you're
Like
saying.
they're like, oh, the original is gritty, like this one will be grimy. Oh, the original was like gory without being gory, like will be gory without being gory. You know, like there's a lot of elements there that are like clearly transposed from the original through their brain into the new movie, and through the filter of Texas Chainsaw Massacre hasn't been loved since the first one 30 years ago. We got to do something.
Incorrect.
Right? Remember that in 2003, I believe I am correct. And so Texas Chainsaw 2, remember, derided for a lot of times. 3 and 4, those movies are looked down on even now, right? And so they had something to gain by trying to get like back to Texas Chainsaw basics. And back to Texas Chainsaw Basics is not super gory, and the movies that are gory are often, you know, criticized for being actually gory. So I kind of don't blame them for showing it, even though I wanted to see it, of course, but I understand why they don't show it.
So what you're saying is Marcus Nispel understood the assignment but was just a shitty director.
Yeah, I think that he absolutely knew what to do and tried his very best. I stand by that statement. I think if you watch this movie, like you know what was going on. Like everybody involved, like they had a clear vision.
All hyperbole aside, right? To that point, very few directors can be Tobe Hooper, right? Like
I mean, you're trying to remake or make a sequel or whatever to one of the best of all time.
From a prolific director, right? Like,
you're always gonna have problems.
Yeah, I agree with that. But like at the same time, is like, again, right? This isn't the worst Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that's ever been made. I'm gonna say
definitely not.
What?
Well,
worst you've seen? You're incorrect.
No, it's not. Hold on. No.
Yeah, I know you're wrong. I know you're wrong about that because we've all watched for the show the worst Texas Chainsaw Massacre ever made.
I see. I just blocked that out of my skull because
I will never forget. I will never ever forget. And this is appropriate to bring up.
Is probably the second worst Texas Chainsaw.
What are you talking about? Which one's worse? The one with with Viggo Mortensen, or the one with Matthew McConaughey?
The Next Generation. Yeah, the one with Matthew McConaughey. That's the worst one.
You don't like that they bring in the Illuminati?
And also, like, I know that this was one of your complaints. Total side note, has nothing to do with the quality, but that was another one where they just changed the name of the family for like no reason.
I hate it. Why?
Like
the Sawyer family.
They did that before too. It's like, why do they keep doing that? What's the point of this?
Like the Sawyer family is fine. Just have them be the Sawyers. It's cool. It's like, and there's like an all American aspect to it, right? And like the Hewitt family has it too, but it's like, dude, keep a continuity, motherfucker. Like use your brain.
It was one of the weirdest things to me about this as a remake was like they changed everybody's name, right? Everybody. But even though it was all the same characters, clearly they all had different names. It's like, why
change
that
for the sake of change as opposed to any real reason behind it?
Well, and they completely got rid of Nubbins. Like Nubbins' character doesn't exist in this movie. Because Nubbins' character,
the sheriff kind of fills that.
Well, no, because the sheriff is the butcher,
is the dad. Yeah,
he kind of is that.
The older brother, not the
brother.
Dad,
Yeah. I don't. They don't remember what his name is. But and even that, like, I don't know, man. Like in this movie, is he a? I know we discover it in the sequel, which is, god damn it, why are you guys making me watch that abortion? But
the prequel.
But like he's very clearly not the dad in this, even though he is the dad in, spoiler alert, I guess, for the next movie. But like fucking, he's not the dad in this. He's just not the dad in this. Like, why the fuck can there only be 2 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies that can hold a clear continuity? What is that?
Yeah, that's
true. What is that? like what is that about? Because not even the new one holds a clear continuity with the rest of the movies. Because
and that one was billed as a sequel to only one movie, and it still doesn't really line up.
It doesn't work there either. Like, there's just not I'm sorry. Like, it can just be a slasher movie, and like, I wouldn't be happy about it, but I would have been okay with it. But like, if you're gonna be like
that's why I like Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Is that the Go Get 'Em Cuz movie? Oh, yeah. God.
Speaking of this movie, that movie understood the assignment, but they just went for it.
Yeah. That movie was like, we can't fix this franchise. That's what that movie was.
Yeah.
Like, that's
a one-off movie that knew it was a one-off and just went, fuck it, let's just do it.
It's not a one-off. It's part of like a franchise of 4, including the original movie.
Yeah, that's it. It's like actually no, I was gonna say it's like the latter Hellraiser movies, and they are in the fact that they're bad. But again, like, I think that's why I get so frustrated, because like the first movie and the second movie are like, they're both the kind of horror movies that I love the most. One is a slow burn, dread-filled horror escapade, and the other one's a horror comedy that nails both. And it's goofy and weird, and like, it's just all over the place, and they've got like cool, weird lighting and all that. Like, and then like every movie after that has just sucked a fat shit. And this movie, while not the worst, does not do anything. It just doesn't. Like, it like, the most that it does, it takes the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket, and they just make him even more gross. Like, that's it. Like,
so how do we feel about him in this movie?
He is like the most obvious bad guy from the moment he's on the screen.
He's also like, the most Sawyer-esque. I will give him that. He is the most Sawyer-esque.
Sure. It's like the moment you start seeing him, and like almost from his first words he speaks to our like cast of teens to die, it's like, oh yeah, this guy's the bad guy. Like, it's like mustache twirly comic book nonsense evil for the sake of evil, and it's just, I don't know. I just wanted more out of him, as opposed to just being like, I'm a crazy guy, and I'm going to say a lot of weird, crazy things to you people that are very inappropriate for someone of the law. It's just, I didn't care for him at all.
I will say this, because there's another movie that does understand the assignment of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it's Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. I do not give Rob Zombie a lot of credit, but House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects are both really good films, which is why he's gotten along on those 2 films alone for a very long time, right? And I will say that Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects is the exception that proves the rule about mean-spirited movies, in all honesty. But like, he also has Captain Spaulding exist in House of a Thousand Corpses, who, for the amount of the time of this movie, you so clearly think is a villain, and then you stop and you forget about him, and then he comes back in the end, and you're like, oh my god, he actually was a good guy the entire time, and then becomes a villain even farther along. If they would have done that in the same way that the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre did with the oldest Sawyer brother, that actually would have been something. Where you think the cop is like this scummy fucking cop, and then he comes back, and when Jessica Biel's like, holy shit, what's going on? And then he's like, are you guys all on drugs? And then that happens, and then all of a sudden Leatherface shows up. And he's like, oh my god, everyone get into my squad car. Everyone get back in my squad car. and he drives away, and you're like, oh my god, they're safe, and then you see them pull up to the Sawyer residence. That would have been kind of cool.
Yeah.
But then you can't have the "that's not your baby, you stole her" scene, which is stupid. Which is stupid. Stupid as hell.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all this. I think my biggest issue with the sheriff that hasn't been mentioned is that, like, this movie in general feels like it wants to be understated, and he's, like, so overacted, and, like, he feels, I feel like I like him and how he did it in a vacuum, but it feels a little bit out of place in this movie as it stands.
It would fit in a like sequel to Texas Chainsaw 2, as opposed to trying to like.
Yeah, where there's just escalating. Yeah.
As opposed to this, which is kind of like its own thing, trying to be the original but not be the original.
I think R. Lee Ermey could have made it work.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think he could have made it work acting the same exact way, but you can't do it with this script, right?
That's fair.
Like it's gotta be both. Right, you either gotta fix the script and have him act that way, or ask him to be even more understated and drop the lines about wanting to feel up corpses with holes in the back of their heads, weird. It's like again we're coming in the early 2000s, which is, I think most of us would agree, a relative low point for horror, right? Where it's just like everything is gross and over the top and meant to discuss rather than like be actually scary, right? Like this is the advent of torture porn, right? And like everybody wants to jump in on this at this point, right? Because like Saw is either out or is hitting.
I think it's the following year, right?
Yeah, but like the short film was probably around and people had seen it at this point, right? Like, and especially directors, because directors are on that avant-garde edge, so people know about it. Like the name is moving around, right? And so, like, there is this, like, you know, people are like, we can get weird with it. We can get fucking gross, dude. And, like, that's fine and dandy, but gross is not the same as horror, right? Mm-hmm. Like, again, another reason why I'm just strictly, we'll review Terrifier for this podcast. We will. I know we will. There's two movies now, which means with our new format, with three
movies.
There's three. Oh, because there's the original, right? Yeah. So which means we can pretty much fill a month and add a solo flick at the end of it, right? So like, but like, I'm completely uninterested in that film for that reason, is because I feel like it takes from it wants to harp on this time in horror films, which is a low point for me personally. The early aughts was when I was coming up, which is the reason why I didn't watch horror for years, right? Like, so. Fair. And this movie is quintessential to that. Everything is dingy. Everything is gross.
It absolutely is.
Everything is wet, but only when women are around to have perky little nips happening. So like
it's grimy. Grimy is the
and like grime is fine if you utilize it correctly, but this is it's like exploitative in like the worst way, where it's trying not to be. Right? It's trying to be polished and exploitative at the same time. You can tell a Weinstein probably had something to do with this movie, is all I'm saying.
Fair.
Corbin,
that's my rant.
You,
Alan,
are on, I remember, leading into this film, you were very excited. You had, I wouldn't say you had a bias leading into this, but you definitely had more positive thoughts than certainly Bobby. And probably me too, but I also came into this pretty level-headed. What do you like about this? What is it that like makes you go, oh, this is fun. I like this. I like what I'm experiencing.
Okay, so there's a few things, right? First of all, the rant that Bobby just got done with, specifically about this era of horror, I agree with all of his notes, but I disagree on the conclusion. Like, I actually quite like this era of horror, right? Yeah. I like the aesthetic. I like it that it's just, like, a lot of things were just, like, dirty for no reason. There was a certain cinematography, like, villains had a certain design that's, like, very much early aughts, mid-aughts. And similar to Bobby, right? I mean, like, we were all the same age. We were coming up in this era, but I was really into horror, and this era of horror is the one that I have the most like personal nostalgia for, right? Because, you know, middle school, early high school, whatever, like just watching all the new stuff, like
These are the trailers you see.
This is just what it was like. Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, that said, I mean, it's not like I'd watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake in like probably 15 years, you know, because it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. So like, it was kind of like, you know, who cares, right? But I'd seen it before, and I remember liking it well enough, right, at the time. And I probably had seen it like twice, and one of those times was when it came out, and I was like 12, right? And there are just, I don't know, I like the visuals. I think I like the way that this movie is shot a lot of the time. I mentioned it at the top. There's a few like chase scenes that I really enjoy, like when Leatherface is running after Mark or whatever his name is through the blankets, you know, through the sheets. Great sequence. I like the meat packing sequence, even though it just made me think of Predator 2. And
that's a fair comparison. It didn't. I will say I didn't think of Predator 2, but to your point, I was maybe like, this has been done before. I don't know exactly where, but this has clearly been done before. Like,
yep. And I know you guys disagree, but I do love this Leatherface. I love that it's just like he's kind of sinister looking for no reason. It's just like almost funny how evil they made him look, but it's just like dripping that early 2000s design sensibility, and I really enjoy that. So yeah, it's just a difference of opinion there, I think. And not saying that the movie is great, but I like the visuals of this movie. I quite enjoy.
I did not like the visuals of this film almost at all.
Yeah,
there's some good sequences. Listen, this month was 2 movies that Bobby likes and 2 movies that Bobby absolutely does not, right? And I will
that was our theme.
Yeah, I came into this thinking I'm gonna hate every second of this movie. There's a couple of good points, right? Andy is the guy's name, by the way. Andy.
Oh, okay.
When I looked it up just now, Andy, when he's running through the forest or the forest of blankets and gets even though there's too many blankets, too many sheets, too many sheets.
That bothered me when they did like the wide shot and there's only like 3 rows of sheets.
He's just running around in circles like, oh fuck, where do I go? Shit, I keep going right and I keep running into things. Like,
yeah.
That like it was a cool little moment. Right, again, when they pick up the teenage girl and she fucking blows her brains out, and then they do the fucking, that's a really cool moment, and then they get the smoke
Great
out of
shot.
her. Like it's a really cool shot. I will fully admit that. The problem is those scenes all happen within like the first half of the movie, and there is no better second. There's no better second half. Because unlike Corbin, I don't like the meat packing scene. And there's too many scenes of clearly in a studio running through a forest, quote unquote, right? Like
it bothered me when Jessica Biel ran through the forest the second time, and it was like just nighttime again. And it's like, how many times are we gonna see this exact? Same
how many times is it
gonna
gonna be night?
Yeah. Yeah, why is it night all the time? That is kind of like a 2000s issue, I think. You know, it's like, oh, nighttime is scarier. But I think one of the big things that made the original scary was at the end was in the daytime, right?
Yeah.
Like daytime horror is scarier than nighttime horror.
Well, the majority of the horror takes place in the daytime. There's a brief period of it being at night, and then she breaks out and they're not, and you think they're having dinner, but they're eating breakfast, which means they're undoubtedly eating her friends at that point, right? Like that's like the scary bit once you come to that conclusion, right? And like there's no cannibalism. There's not even any implied. I guess there's implied cannibalism because like they're like gutting and goring, but they never actually even like do like a dinner or breakfast scene.
I didn't get any form of cannibalism.
Well, I don't. They hook a guy and they salt the wound, right? And
sure,
and they dress Kemper that's
true.
They prepare but they don't even do that, right? Like, if you want to do that, right? If you want to be like, there is a little bit of show, right? But you don't want to show anything, they should flay Kemper, right? They should flay Kemper's corpse. That would be the thing that you'd want to show, right? Because that's easy. It requires like a full body mold, right? And then but like it's a dummy, right? You just like get close up shots of that stuff, and that seems easy enough, right? Like,
I mean, anybody, and any actor can like wear a prosthetic to like make it all work if you wanted to even do it like as a real effect. Like it just. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were doing it in the 90s.
That was my only issue with the meatpacking sequence, because like the whole like it feels like an homage to the fact that they're like cannibals, right? It's like, oh, the meatpacking and they're eating people. But you're missing the link, you know? So it's like not as like if you've only seen this movie, it's like, okay, sure, meatpacking, I guess.
Yeah, they're sadistic. Like, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the thing. It's like this movie does not.
Oh, and that also, like, why are they killing people? Like, they don't go down like the line of sensibility.
They never. And again, the movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre never outwardly says it. You never see them eating anybody, but like they bring you to that point. They draw the line. This movie just doesn't. It's not a clear line. It's just not a clear line. And then you go to the meatpacking facility and like, why are they here, right? Yeah. And then and that scene is so confusing because again, why does Leatherface turn on the sprinklers? The only reason why they turn there's no point to turn on the sprinklers other than you want to get horny 16-year-olds to see Jessica Biel's nips popping out a little bit, right? Like that the Leatherface looks at the canvas, "What's up, fellow incels?" Bam.
The other thing that kind of like bothered me is the little kid. Just like
the boy with the fucked up teeth.
I don't need that.
That's how I know he's a hillbilly.
Yeah, of course, you need to have a very clear distinguisher, and fucked teeth is the distinguisher.
I don't know, man. Also the fat lady and the woman who stole the baby, and the fact that there's an entire baby subplot that comes out of nowhere.
That's fair.
Also weird. Like there's a lot of like. Go for it. Finish your bit before I do it.
It just when that kid comes up and he like helps them and everything, I'm just like, what is this character serving the overall plot that I'm watching unfold? Like, not all cannibals are bad, or not all bad people. Bad people don't necessarily create bad people. Like, it feels like he's there to like send a message, and it's like, I don't need that here. It's not what I'm looking for in this. He's just tacked on for the sake of, well, kids test well in horror movies, fellow human beings.
Yeah,
here you go.
He's an ex machina. He becomes an ex machina, right? But like,
it would be easier if he was like, not that I want to see this, but if you even show him like being abused or like not really part of the family, you know, I think that would make more sense. But
but Corbin, he has to sleep outside in Texas. That's the abuse.
And why is he like? What did he do wrong? You know, like I think there's
other Texas Chainsaw movies that do this better, where there's like a sibling who doesn't want to be like I think the one with Viggo Mortensen has a sibling who wants to protect, who doesn't want to like, who's like a vegetarian, right? Like that's I think that's a part of it.
I definitely don't remember that, but
I'll like that one.
It's not good, but I'm pretty sure there's a bit there with that where like there is a member of the Sawyer, or they might be the Slaughter family. I don't remember if it's that one or the next one.
Is it that on the nose with the name?
It's that, I think it's the Matthew McConaughey one that they're that on the nose with. But like, this movie has the room level of picking up and dropping subplots. Like there's so many subplots that like this movie is fucking cluttered.
But Bobby, they don't have a phone. They don't have a phone. They don't have a phone, Bobby. Like they can't possibly be bothered to keep plots going.
But the guy but the guy who doesn't have a street leading to his home does.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Hello?
This is rural Texas in 1970 something.
3.
Yeah.
Terrible.
So, Alan,
Corbin.
And then the beginning and ending. Sorry, I'm stopping
No,
you.
go for it.
And then
No,
the beginning and ending, they're
I
like,
was gonna
hey,
go to that eventually.
hey, hey, look, there's footage to make this even more spooky. He for some reason, with one arm, went back home and then killed 2 police officers and then got away.
Out between now and then.
Well, he salted his own wound. So he's fine.
That's all you need is salt, and then you just don't die of your arteries pumping blood out of
Is
your
that
body.
shown or is that implied?
Yes.
Well, it's implied, right? Because they show that he can do it with somebody else, right? So.
Yes, of course.
It's
Sorry,
in universe that salt is the magic cure-all.
That's right.
Go ahead. Continue your bit.
No, I was just gonna ask Alan, who clearly didn't like any of this movie.
No.
Was there anything that you liked about this movie?
The one shot after the hitchhiker blows her brains out and it goes through her skull. That's really like that is genuinely like phenomenal cinematography. Like that to me that is like an S tier shot. Like that's good shit. That's about it.
That's about it.
That's about it. It just doesn't. When I watched this film, I kept going, why is it holding back constantly? Like, is it so much to either like understand that if you're going to do a nuanced, subtle film, there are ways in which you need to do that, or you can give me pure nonsense. And I'm happy with either of those two spectrums when it comes to this franchise. You give me either of those, I'm in happy town. I can enjoy myself. It's great. You give me this middle of the road bullshit, and it just falls so flat for me. I kept going to myself, why is this movie moving lightning fast at times and then creeping along at the slowest snake? Like its pacing is just like fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow. It just never really knows what it wants to be. And it was honestly frustrating to watch this movie. That was the weird thing. I got annoyed and frustrated. Like, it felt longer than it was because of just how annoyed I was at watching this film. It was a very odd experience.
It's a movie that knows it's 90 minutes and meanders anyway. Like that's what this movie is. It's just like, yeah, you know,
we'll get
we
there,
should take
man.
our time at the worst possible moments, but fuck, oh my god, shit. Like
My
how
favorite part was the dropped subplot about the engagement. That was very funny.
it picked up. No, you get a beginning, middle, and end with that bad boy. I want to marry you, and I'm gonna give you a ring one day. I'm dead. What is this thing? It's a ring. Yeah. Whatever, and that's the end of it. It's just done. Kemper, again, another guy who, from his perspective, does nothing wrong and dies for it. Like,
well, he was a weed smuggler.
That's true. In the 70s.
He did nothing wrong and died for it.
Oh boy. Well,
except for probably just knowing all of them being Texas people liking Leonard Skinner. As somebody who is from the North and likes Leonard Skinner, I like Leonard Skinner for the right reasons. They got a cool Southern rock sound, and they've got Mr. Saturday Night Special, which is a gun control song. Big fan of that stuff, right? People who like Leonard Skinner, who are in the South, almost assuredly like them for all of the wrong reasons. Those are the two reasons that was the one reason that Kemper had wrong. They had Skinner tickets and they lived in Texas in the 70s.
Did they live in Texas though? Or did they travel to Texas?
I think the whole point is I think at least in the first two movies and this one that they lived in Texas. I think I think most of the people who die in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre live in Texas. If not everybody who dies in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No, well, again, we know in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2021, it's a bunch of coastal elitists who formed a cult.
That's true. Yeah, those people they do die in Texas though.
Yeah,
That's
they
true.
die, and some of them, their families are from Texas, right?
Yeah.
But the guy who got his face half cut off in that movie, he was not from Texas. There's no way.
Who was though? Who was from Texas in that film? No one can tell.
Leatherface.
Unacceptable.
And the woman who
And his
said,
adopted grandma.
yeah, who was the old version of racist, but not like the actual racist version of racist, being like, I love the blacks, instead of being like, I understand why you'd be upset about that. I can take the flag down. I misunderstood the sign here, right?
Oh boy. Well, before this gets too far into Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022,
I hate it. I hate it forever. I'll never stop hating it.
I'm ready to rate this bad boy.
Yep.
How do we
Let's
feel
go for
about
it.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. So we rate movies here at Essential Scares on a scale of 0 to 5, with half points allowed. So a score such as a 2 or a 2.5 is totally allowed, but a score like a 2.25 would be totally out of pocket. Not a score that we could quantify. Not in the least. Trying to make a few guesses here, lowest to highest. We're gonna start with Alan. Alan, what would you rate this guy?
So leading into this show, this shindig, this gathering, if you will, we talked about this much. And Corbin made a joke that I would bring up the score of this film through speaking about it. And you see, he actually was wrong, but like extra wrong. Because I have 1.5 written down. I like it less than that. This movie's a 1 out of 5 for me. I hated basically everything about this movie. It tries to do so many things that the original did and fails at basically all of them. And really what the capstone was for me is the end of this film. Okay? The end of this film has the sheriff get ran over 4 times. And nothing is shown. Nothing. 0. Nothing. The one bit of gore you get, the one like true bit of gore you get in the original film, is the very end when you see a person get annihilated by a truck. It's awesome. It's great. And this dude gets hit 4 times, and you see nothing. Nothing. You get nothing. This movie is blue balls the movie. It just doesn't give you anything. And I can't have that around. I can't deal with that at all. 1 out of 5.
Wow. Even lower than expected. And yet, unexpected. Bobby, what would you rate this movie?
That's a great question. So,
yeah.
I kind of came into this being like, I'm going to kind of discover the rating as I get there. I'm going to let my co-host
as one does.
I'm going to let my co-host influence me a little bit. And there was a point early on in the review section of the cast where Corbin said the director and the production team clearly understood the assignment. And I found myself very convinced by that statement, because my original assessment was I was going to give Texas Chainsaw 2003 the same score, a 0.5, that I gave Texas Chainsaw 2021. But I thought, you're right, Corbin. They did get the assignment. They tried. They failed, but they tried. And I think that's important. And I think that alone gives it a point. So I'm going to rate Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 a 1.5 out of 5. I think it deserves that for the few and far between but good, well shot moments in this movie that it does have, and the fact that it tried and again failed to kind of emulate Tobe Hooper's vision. So yeah, 1.5 out of 5.
Okay, there you go. So I had a score written down in advance, and I figured, kind of the same. Sometimes, our scores go up or down, by half a point or a point as we discuss. And I think I ended up just kind of exactly where I had written it down, which was exactly where I had convinced Bobby to get all the way up to a 1.5. I mean, the thing is that
Wasn't it?
I definitely liked this movie the most, but it wasn't good, right? And that's the thing.
That's
Like,
good.
I enjoy a lot of things about this movie, but some of the things I enjoy this movie are not objectively good, right? And I think that there are behind the scenes elements, with the camera work and some of the directing and whatever that like should be commended, but in general it's still a subpar horror movie, and it's not even that good considering the era, right? There are things about it that feel very much of the era, and for that I'm nostalgic and I appreciate it. But there are other movies that do it better. So it's a 1.5, not like atrocious, but definitely below average.
So what I'm hearing is that's not all we do on this podcast.
Correct.
Not
That is
only
what
did
you
you
hear.
steal her, we also decide what is essential for our horror as a whole, right? Now, keep in mind, dear listener, we stole the review so that the essential portion can be spoiler-free. And I think the same order is a good idea here. So we're going to start with Alan,
Okay.
who gave this movie a 1 out of 5. I gave it a 1.5 out of 5, and Corbin gave it a 1.5 out of 5. But Corbin liked it the most, so he'll go last. But Alan, how did you feel? Do you feel as if the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 is essential to a horror as a whole?
No. Not even, like, I cannot, I've racked my brain thinking about this. When I finished this film, I sat here in this exact position with my arms crossed in disgust, going, is there anything, like, I did the, like, more mental gymnastics than I really needed to just go, like, what does this movie bring to the table? Genuinely, like, I had to sit here and think, is there anything I can think of that it really did that meant anything other than the fact that it has the Texas Chainsaw Massacre attached to it as a thing? And I couldn't come up with anything except that's a cool shot going through the girl's skull. It's all it's got. It's all it's got. And one good piece of cinematography does not an essential horror film make. So no.
All right. Bobby.
I think I'm going to go next.
Yep.
And I think I'm going to say yes. And here's why I'm going to say yes.
I hate this.
Technically, this is not the first horror remake of this era. That goes to 13 Ghosts. Right? 13 Ghosts came out 2 years beforehand. But people don't remember the original 13 Ghosts. In the same way that people don't remember that The Thing is a remake from The Thing of Outer Space, right? The Thing is its own thing, and the 2001 13 Ghost is either completely forgotten entirely, or if you remember it, you remember the 2001 version of 13 Ghost. You don't remember the old version, right? This is the first horror mainstay when horror became its own genre of film that is a remake of that film. Is it bad? Of course it is. Should you just watch the original? Of course you should. But this was the start of remakes that we are now hitting the first repeat of this repeat now, right? We've hit remakes and now we're hitting the requel, right? And I think that that is important. In the same way that I have to confirm that's important, right? Requels are a bit here that happens, right? This is the first of the repeats. It's a thing. It's not a good thing, right? There's a reason why we gave up and went to requels after that, but it's a part of horror history, right? There's a reason why Rob Zombie is Halloween, right? The best Friday the 13th movie, Friday the 13th, 2009, the only half decent one, right? The bad A Nightmare on Elm Street, right? These all exist because this movie existed and did well in the box office. So, like, you got to give it credit for that. It's a bad movie. It's got a couple good moments, but besides that, it's a bad movie. But, of course, it's essential for that, right? It's a part of horror history, right? And the historian in me can't give that up. So, yeah, it's essential. Corbin.
So I really thought there was a chance with me going last that I would come in with a whole big bit, right? I was expecting 2 no's, and I would be the odd man out, and then I would say a whole bunch of stuff, and then Bobby would go, "Oh, you're totally right." But Bobby said everything I was going to say. This movie is
Objectively
absolutely
right all the time.
essential. It doesn't matter that it's bad. This is the movie that kicked off the remake craze of slashers specifically, right? It all the movies that Bobby mentioned, some are much better, some are worse than this, and it's because
The ones
of
I
this
said that
movie.
were better and worse.
Yeah, like this movie made so much money, and whether or not we liked it, people that are our age, right, especially people who haven't gone back and rewatched it, like this movie holds a cultural memory, and it impacted the genre for over a decade. And for that, it has to be essential.
Made almost $100 million.
Alan, I want you to look me in the eyes real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah, I'm looking.
I want you to look me in the
I'm
eyes.
looking
Yeah.
at you.
Yeah. This is what you get for saying yes to Insidious: The
Oh
Last
my
Key.
god.
This is what you get for that. Do you feel the pain I am feeling right now? Do you feel our integrity going down the
Yes.
drain? That is for you.
When I saw the light shine up on Bobby's face of his other monitor, and I was like, he is checking the box office on this movie. He's about to say what I'm gonna say.
I actually knew I was always going to say Essential is, but I definitely was looking. I was looking to see if it was the first of it. That's how I knew 13
yeah.
Ghosts came before it. Actually,
Yeah, 13 Ghosts and House on Haunted Hill, like those were before, but
Yeah.
not slashers. So like this is like in that way.
But the new 13 Ghosts is kind of a slasher.
But it's not a remake of a slasher because the
No,
original is
that's
definitely
fair.
not.
That's
Yeah.
completely fair.
Yeah. Oh man, but speaking of horror remakes, what have you guys been up to? Where can we find you? What's going on?
You can find me at a seal punter just about anywhere. Tomorrow morning, I'm gonna be watching the next Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that we're watching for next week. I'm not looking forward to it at all after watching this train wreck. Other than that, Gabo happened, our gift exchange themed around Warhammer, and I got more custodies, and I'm building a bunch of those. I got my 1,000 Suns in today, so I got to build those.
Yeah, who
I've
got you all those custodies?
Who possibly could? I think it's this awesome power couple named Ballery that got me both some Virtus Praetors, the Codex, and the data cards for the custodies. Pretty
Man.
cool people, all things considered.
I warned you that you were gonna love your gift, and
You
here
did
we
give
are
me
with
the
you
warning.
loving your gift.
And then I drunkenly told you what your gift was ahead of time, even though I messed up.
Appreciate that,
that's very
Sagitar,
funny.
baby. I also
You
got a
know what?
Warhammer gift.
It is what it is. I need to finish God of War. I just gotta finish it out. The game is so fucking long, man. It's like 40, 50 hours, and I'm like 30 hours in at this point. I just need to plow through and be done with the damn thing. But yeah, a seal punter, just about anywhere.
Nice.
You can find me at twitch.tv/theredweenie and the malware known as Mastodon at the Red Weenie. What have I been up to within the last time we have all spoken? Gabo happened, and I had Alan was my secret Santa, and I got a Sagittar, which is a cool piece of my space dwarf stuff, and also Corbin got me an incredibly cool gift. He got me a starter kit for Space Marines, which is like if you know anything about Warhammer 40,000, you know Space Marines are the blue guys. And there's a particular sub-faction called the Lamenters that I really like. They're really cool. They're like a good guy. They're like good guy vampires essentially. And Corbin got me a bunch of stuff as well. He 3D printed me a bunch of stuff to help me make them be Lamenters, as well as 3D printed me a bunch of stuff for my favorite manga. You can kind of see them right there in the video podcast, dear listener. Berserk, right? He gave me the Demon Slayer sword. I'm gonna make that probably my lead guy. I'm gonna give him one of those, and it'll be really cool. So it was really nice of him to do that, and really nice for Ellen to give me a Sagittar, because I wouldn't have bought it for myself, and they're really helpful for my army.
Very good.
Other than that, haven't been up to much. I've been kind of sort of playing Pokemon. I've been thinking about getting back into Elden Ring, although I haven't yet because the Coliseum update happened, and I really love PvP in those games. They're really fun to get like an RPG style build and then run it up against other RPG style builds. It's kind of fun. But yeah. Follow me on Mastodon. I'm still trying to figure it out. I was gonna ask Corbin before the pod how it fucking works, but that'll have to wait another week, and that's fine. As soon as I get it figured out, I'll be probably super terminally online there. So follow me now to see that then. Yeah, the Red Weenie on the socials. You need to find me at Twitch and Mastodon, and Twitch has all my relevant socials there.
Nice. You can find me on Twitter at Corbangarang, or talking about Warhammer on Twitter and Mastodon at Bolters and Bourbon.
I followed him today.
There you go. I love that. What have I been up to? So we've already mentioned it twice. I'll mention mine. Our Red Gobbo gift exchange was this past weekend for our Warhammer club. We have a shockingly large wargaming group in our group of friends. The person who got me my gift was I got Abaddon the Despoiler, given to me by Tyler, who you may remember is a friend of the show. He was on our Hellraiser episode way back. I play Chaos and I absolutely love it. Printed out a little helmet for him because he has kind of a dumb little face and I don't want that. So besides that, I am about halfway through Descent of Angels, which is the 6th Horus Heresy book about the Dark Angels, and I am playing Destiny again because it's the new season, and that's been pretty fun. The storyline this season so far is enjoyable, which is nice. And before the next episode, I should hopefully have started Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, which was just added to Game Pass. And I've been waiting to play it, and I just didn't have time. And now it's free.
Should have waited. I bought it, and now I don't even need to buy it anymore.
Yeah, and that's like, I was gonna buy it right away because it's Lego Star Wars, and I just waffled on it, and I never had time to play it, and then there it was given to me. But that's that. You can find the podcast just about anywhere at Essential Scares, where, when I say just about anywhere, I mean we're on YouTube, your favorite podcasting platforms, and Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and I mean we'll probably be on Mastodon as well in the future. It seems like that is going to be the place to go when Twitter inevitably destructs, which honestly could be literally any day. Every morning when I sign on to Twitter, it could be the day when Twitter doesn't load. I just have no idea. But thank you so much for listening to the show. If you liked the show, give us a follow on your preferred platform of choice. Share the show. Give us a review, a like, a rating, whatever. It all helps the show, and it makes us feel really good about doing the show. 76 episodes in. I mean, we do this a little bit for us, but we do it a lot of bit for you. So let us know how you feel about it. We're always taking suggestions. Right now we're on a franchise kick. So if you have a franchise of at least 2 movies that you'd like us to cover, send us a message on socials or join our Discord, which is linked on all of our social platforms, and just at us there. Yeah. Thank you to Alan and Bobby for being on the show. Next week, we're finishing off our Texas Chainsaw remake duology with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Beginning. I'm super excited because I remember it being better than this one. Am I right? Am I wrong? We'll find out together next week on Essential Scares.
Play that Your Choice of Breakdown from Slipknot's 2001 album, Iowa, baby.
Oh,